Hi, I'm James Lamont, fellow at the Vidine Center for Rural Economic Development at the University of Minnesota Crookston. There's been a lot in the news over the last several weeks concerning El Nino and its impact. What I wanted to do was take some time to focus on how El Nino will impact the upper Midwest as well as its agricultural community. So first of all, El Nino is basically a climatic event that involves the warming of the Pacific Ocean. Naturally, it impacts global weather patterns because as the warmer ocean leads to various wind patterns that shift, currents, and it pushes, at least in our case, the jet stream further north, which means we end up with warmer winter weather. Over the last 3 years here in the upper Midwest, we've experienced La Nina years, which is effectively the opposite, albeit not quite the same in terms of being the absolute opposite. And as a result, we've seen colder winters and slightly shorter crop cycles. So El Nino typically results in altered precipitation patterns and temperature patterns as a result of those current, wind, and other changes. And in this particular region of the United States, which is heavily dependent on agriculture, most notably corn, soybeans, wheat, lentils, things along those lines, it's very important that we understand this holistically. The impact of El Nino could be very substantial. It could be very beneficial on one hand. You could have better yields and more effective and favorable farming operations. But on the other hand, if the precipitation patterns change a certain way, it can be very difficult for farming communities. So, every few months, the probability of warmer or colder weather chances are articulated or shared via the NOAA website. And obviously right now here in the Upper Great Plains, we're seeing a higher probability of warmer than normal weather, which would naturally impact our agricultural harvests. Increased winter temperatures, same thing with a longer fall perhaps. But with this could potentially come increased pestilence. So you could have more pests, populations could work their way further north, disease, et cetera. So it's not all positive if you have warm weather. In addition, there are typically altered precipitation patterns. We could see rainfall timing come later or earlier. It could be heavier, or we could even see drought. Whether it's heavier rain or droughts, the bottom line up front is both are kind of bad for crop health because they're extremes, not very consistent. We also see disrupted planting and harvesting cycles. Changes in weather patterns can impact the optimal time in planting and harvesting for crops. I mean, things like getting workforce for harvest, perhaps in late October or even into November, could be difficult because maybe some workers are used to traveling on and moving on to more southerly climes where they're able to work into the year and they may have already signed contracts. So it's not just a consequence of the crop, it's also a consequence of farm management, workforce, access, transportation routes. A number of things are impacted if the crop cycle shifts because of a warmer or perhaps longer fall. Fluctuations in temperature and precipitation can directly impact the growth. It could be a very good year, it could be a very poor year, it all depends. So that's kind of where we are. It's definitely an El Nino year. Everything has been predicted that lines up pretty well for a warmer summer, fall, and potentially into the winter. Thank you for joining me.